Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, the honorable lecturer and all of my friends. Thank you very much for joining my presentation today, and let me introduce myself. My name is Wita. I'm from Galuh University. For today, I would like to present my research proposal entitled Online Formative Assessment as a Means to Increase Students' Active Participation in Learning English Literature using Advisal, a case study at the second year of English Department of Galuh University. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to divide my presentation into 5 sections. For the first one, about background of the study, the second about research question, the third about purpose of the study, the fourth about literature review, and then the last one about research methodology. Well, let's begin into the first section about background of the study. The assessment process is very important as learning takes place. One thing that shouldn't be forgotten is the assessment process. Assessment has the purpose of knowing the progress of the students in acquiring the learning materials. Online formative assessment, with the advancement of information and technology, now we can have an interactive formative assessment through online platforms. And one of the online formative assessment is Advisal. Richard and Rogers state that teachers are able to match students' interests and needs with interesting and meaningful content. Developing online formative assessment. To increase students' active participation in learning, the teacher can design an online learning process using Advisal with explanation of the material, and this video also covers by some questions to increase students' active participation in learning. So I think the teacher can develop online formative assessment using Advisal. The next one about previews of the studies. Here, I just include some previous studies in the PowerPoint, but actually I have read more than 3 previous studies. For the first one, Savitri NL 2019 explored the digitalized formative assessment as a means to increase students' active participation in learning. Puspita Yani et al. 2020 explored the developing online formative assessment using quizzes for assessing reading competency of the 10th grade students in Buleleng Regency. And then Short et al. 2016 explored a case study of formative assessment to support teaching of reading comprehension for English learners. And then the next about the CAP. Most studies have only focused on the developing formative assessment using many platforms of online formative assessment like quizzes and Kahoot application. And research has a similarity that the implementing of online formative assessment, the students become more focused. But the students' active participation in implementing of online formative assessment in learning process has not yet been reported clearly in the previous studies that using some application. So it is important to address by choosing another platforms like Advisal to investigate the purpose of implementing online formative assessment and to know the students' active participation in learning in online learning process. Therefore, the goals of this study are to explore how the teacher develop online formative assessment to increase students' active participation in learning English literature using Advisal. Well, let's moving into the next slide about research question. Here I have 2 research questions. For the first one, how does the teacher develop online formative assessment to increase students' active participation in learning English literature using Advisal? And then the second one, how does the students proceed towards the implementation of online formative assessment through Advisal to increase their active participation in learning English literature? And then the next one about purpose of the study. The purpose of the study for the first one, to explore how the teacher develop online formative assessment to increase students' active participation in learning English literature using advisal. And the second purpose of the study, to investigate the students' perception toward the implementation of online formative assessment through advisal to increase their active participation in learning English literature. The next slide about literature review. Formative assessment is usually given directly after a chunk of instruction. The feedback of formative assessment is often immediate and it aims on checking the student's understanding of that particular material. Formative assessment, also known as assessment for learning, where the result of the assessment should correspond to an action taken based for future improvements, according to Bennett 2011. Active participation is the active involvement of members with online communities generated from the motivation to interact and cooperate with other members who are on in the community, according to Kang 2018. And then advisal is a tool or a media which can be used by all the teachers to make interesting and interactive video lessons and materials for any source of learning video, according to Amalia 2020. Next slide about research methodology. For the research design, I will use a case study method in this research. Based on Byrne 2000, state that a case study is an empirical inquiry that investigates a contemporary phenomenon and contexts are not evident and in which multiple sources of evidence are used. It is very relevant with my research. And then the research participant, I will use purposive sampling as a sampling technique. And the research participant of this study consists of the lecturer at English education program who teach the students of English literature through advisal, and 30 students at the second grade. Well, the next about research site, I will conduct my research at English education program of Galuh University. This site will be chosen because in this case there is the lecturer and the students who use advisal in teaching and learning English literature, and it is suitable for filling the requirement in conducting the study. Well, the next one about data collecting techniques. To collect the data, I will use some instruments. To answer the first research question, I will use observation, non-participant observation, and interview, semi-structured interview. And then to answer the second research question, I will use closed-ended questionnaire. And data analysis, in analyzing the data, I will collecting all the data, transcribing and coding the data, classify the data, analyze and interpreting the data, and last I will use percentage to analyze a questionnaire. And then the next one about reference that I use in my presentation today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your nice attention, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.